Leaks introduces this AI rendered voice generated from an essay written by Professor Robert Gordon, former personal secretary to, and the first Western person designated as a Brahmachari, and deerskin carrier, by Maharishi. These skin boys, as they were called in the TM movement, were close confidants of Maharishi, who saw the inner workings of Maharishi's inner circle. Robert has a PhD from Princeton University. He has held posts at the Universities of California, New Mexico, and Oregon, with a specialty in American religious history. Part 4, Turbulent Tremors, the Beatles' Disillusionment at Maharishi's Ashram. When Mia told Ned the tawdry story, he, a true believer, expressed great skepticism, asserting that she must have misunderstood Maharishi's intentions. She insisted, as Wynne recounts in his memoir We Will Always Live in Beverly Hills, that Maharishi clearly wanted her to lie down and have sex with him. When Ned further expressed doubt, he tells us, the former Mrs. Frank Sinatra turns to me, Ned, she says with great patience, don't you think I know when a man wants to fuck me? The morning after Maharishi's attempted seduction, Pharaoh made good on her resolve to leave the ashram and travel to Kathmandu and Goa. Ned told me Pharaoh said that Maharishi had her shadowed the whole time, his minions begging her to return to the ashram. From Goa, she flew to New Delhi, where a whole new and exciting drama was about to begin. John, George, and their wives were soon to touch down at Delhi airport on the way to Rishikesh. Paul, Ringo, and their wives would follow in a couple of days. Pharaoh had made arrangements to greet John and George upon their arrival at the airport, and soon enough she and the Beatles were all together in Rishikesh. Apparently, her eagerness to hang with the mop tops had overcome her creeps about Maharishi's seduction attempt, and she could make sure never to be alone with him again. So, on February 16th, just a week after her birthday, Pharaoh was on her way back to the ashram where Donovan Leitch and Mike Love of the Beach Boys would soon arrive, too. The Fab Four and their spouses soon settled into life at the ashram. While everything was generally positive and upbeat, volcanic rumblings in the earth were to begin which would contribute to the Beatles' eventual disillusionment. For one, they had a growing concern about Maharishi's hunger for money and publicity. Cynthia Lennon tells us that John had begun to feel disenchanted with Maharishi's behavior. He felt that, for a spiritual man, Maharishi had too much interest in public recognition, celebrities, and money. Augmenting this concern was Maharishi's direct request that they deposit 10 to 25% of their income to a Swiss bank account to benefit Maharishi's organization. Then too, there was the disquieting brouhaha that arose when Maharishi promised exclusive rights to film the Beatles in Rishikesh to two different crews, one from the Beatles' parent company Apple, and a second from Maharishi's own spiritual regeneration movement. The clash between these two claimants was unseemly, producing persistent tremors which disturbed the ashram's peace and quiet. While the mop tops all enjoyed their time at the ashram together, Ringo and his wife stayed little more than a week. They soon returned to England, saying they missed their children. About the same time, March 7th, Pharaoh left too, flying to London to begin filming Secret Ceremony starring Elizabeth Taylor. However, before she left, she was sure to tell John about the Puja Pass on her birthday, a fact that would be crucial in the coming drama. Paul and his girlfriend departed after a month or so, March 23rd, because Jane had a theatrical commitment in London. That left only John and George, undoubtedly the two Beatles most committed to the spiritual wisdom of India and the practice of meditation. George's fascination with India and its music deepened when he took up mastery of the sitar. Thus, only John and George, importantly the two truest believers in Maharishi, were at the ashram when the lava finally began to flow and the dramatic split with their celibate master came down. Part 5, Unveiling the Truth, the Beatles' Disillusionment and the Fall of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. George's fascination with India and its music deepened when he took up mastery of the sitar. Thus, only John and George, importantly the two truest believers in Maharishi, were at the ashram when the lava finally began to flow and the dramatic split with their celibate master came down. Recall that the final volcanic eruption that swept the remaining Beatles from the ashram sounded its first warning on February 9 when Maharishi put the make on Mia Farrow. Now, 2 months later, the mountain finally blew its top. The final pressure necessary to set off the eruption began to build, and Maharishi repeated his seduction routine, its intended victim this time a young educator from Brooklyn named Rosalind Bonus. Maharishi had personally invited her to the initiator training course in Rishikesh, ostensibly because of her enthusiastic commitment to the movement. Her apartment in Brooklyn was the de facto transcendental meditation center, used for initiations and meetings. Note that the boys all loved her. She was said to resemble Farrow and actress Jean Seberg, and had a considerably alluring charm. That Maharishi might have invited Bonus to Rishikesh for other than initiator training purposes became apparent in early April, just 2 months after the Farrow Grove. The first steam and smoke began to issue forth from the mountain when, during an afternoon lecture to the course participants, Rosalind asked Maharishi a question, to which he but glancing replied and then told her that she needed to come see him privately for special instruction. About 9:30 that night, one of Maharishi's Indian brahmacharis, a celibate monk pledged to lifelong service to the Guru, came to Rosalind's room and told her Maharishi would see her now, and escorted her to his house, where he greeted her and invited her into his bedroom. Then he embraced her in such a way it made clear where he wanted things to go. She could feel his erection pressing against her, and he sat on his bed and patted the bed for her to come over and get in. Disgusted and dismayed, Rosalind told him she had to leave to keep a promise to a friend. Maharishi told her to come back, that he would leave the door open. Badly shaken and disoriented by Maharishi's attempted seduction, Rosalind hurriedly returned to her room to process what had happened and try to figure out what to do. After 2 days of agonizing deliberation, on April 9th, Rosalind went to her friend, Magic Alex Martas, a member of the Beatles' entourage and close with Rosalind, and confided to him what had happened in Maharishi's bedroom. Magic Alex, just recently arrived and no supporter of the Guru, quickly sought out John and George and told them the shocking story. He denounced Maharishi as a sexual predator and warned that they all needed to leave Rishikesh and escape his hypocritical and malignant influence. John and George expressed utter disbelief and dismissed the possibility out of hand. However, to be clear, and mindful of what Mia had told John about what had happened to her on her birthday, they went to Rosalind to confirm what she told Magic Alex. When she did, John and George returned to their bungalow and began a heated discussion with others in the inner circle about this volcanic news. Mia's self-same story of the Puja Pass entered the discussion and provided damning support for the truth of Rosalind's claim. Part 6, The Eruption of Truth, Unraveling Scandal at the Ashram. However, to be clear, and mindful of what Mia had told John about what had happened to her on her birthday, they went to Rosalind to confirm what she told Magic Alex. When she did, John and George returned to their bungalow and began a heated discussion with others in the inner circle about this volcanic news. Mia's self-same story of the Puja Pass entered the discussion and provided damning support for the truth of Rosalind's claim. However, to be clear, and mindful of what Mia had told John about what had happened to her on her birthday, they went to Rosalind to confirm what she told Magic Alex. When she did, John and George returned to their bungalow and began a heated discussion with others in the inner circle about this volcanic news. Mia's self-same story of the Puja Pass entered the discussion and provided damning support for the truth of Rosalind's claim. What should they do? They formulated a plan to get evidence. According to the plan, Rosalind should get in touch with Maharishi, telling him she would like to get together with him now if the door was, figuratively, still open. If he invited her to return, Magic Alex, and perhaps others, would hide in the bushes just outside his bedroom window, where they could see what happened. The plan was put into effect and got results that very night. Maharishi invited Rosalind to come that evening and, at the appointed hour, when Rosalind arrived at Maharishi's house, Magic Alex, and perhaps others, hid in the bushes outside the bedroom. The scene of 2 nights before repeated itself, and when things had gone far enough to make clear that Rosalind had been telling the truth, she broke from his grasp and fled the bedroom. Rosalind and the observers, very upset by what they saw, then went to John and George, and when the mop-tops heard the evidence, the mountain finally blew its top, the lava of disillusionment began to flow. Confronted with the evidence of Maharishi's guilt, a heated debate arose among John, Paul, their wives, and others in the celebrity circle. The upshot was that they decided not only that Mia and Rosalind were telling the truth, but also that they would all depart the ashram the next morning. Magic Alex was dispatched to arrange for taxis to take them to New Delhi. After they had all gone to bed, George's wife Patty had what she described as a horrid dream about Maharishi having sex with women. The dream eerily amplified the truth of Mia's and Rosalind's allegations. When George awoke Patty in the morning, she recounted to him the dream and said, "Come on, we're leaving." Patty's sister Jenny, part of the celebrity entourage, substantiated her sister's story. Concerning the Mia Rosalind allegations, Jenny relates, when Patty told George she'd had a dream depicting Maharishi in the same light, it confirmed their decision.